All right, I'm here with Sheena Sharma, and I'm Johnny Osmond. And if you're a single guy, just go to my website. It is joresults.com. O is the letter, and just put in your email, and you'll get a free ebook. And it's only 20 pages. It's not an extensive read. You can read it in one day. And there you go. And you got that. If you like it, you can join my community as well. It's on the first page to join. You just click and join. All right, here we are.
Here we are.
All right, let's talk for a little bit. So you are a dating coach?
Yes, I am.
That is interesting. And looks like, from what I see, that you help men get better dates by teaching them how to understand women.
That is correct. Yes.
Cool. What would be, starting out, what would be, if, let's say, someone just is watching right now, a tip that you could give a man who is viewing this right now to improve their dating life?
Mm, Yes. Such a simple but also loaded question. Um, I think a lot of men don't realize how much is communicated through body language. So I like to tell my clients that half of flirting happens before you even open your
Yeah.
mouth. Right? So eye contact, posture, do you have a proud chest or are you slumped over? Um, Making direct eye contact and not breaking that eye contact. So start with these like really kind of simpler things and have a really high level of awareness in your body. And from there, verbal flirting will just become so much easier.
I completely agree with you. Body language is very important in the context of dating. And if you're a man and you're crouched over when you're talking, it's very unattractive. And if you actually arch your back a little bit while you're speaking, it's much more attractive and it's subtle. And a lot of times, subtlety can go a long ways whenever you're interacting with somebody. So yeah, arching your back, I completely agree. Even things like moving your eyebrows certain ways, subtle stuff is a lot of times what is attractive. Being overt or being overly aggressive can be a turn off because it's almost as if you're saying a little bit too much because if you come across in subtle manners, it can be much more attractive most often. Bragging is usually unattractive, and that's the world that we live in. That's the way that it usually works. Whenever you're, even with talking to people in general, like if you're bragging, let's say you have a friend and you're bragging to them, they're not going to respect you as much.
100%. Yes. I think there's a very fine line between uh, cockiness and confidence, right? It's like you want to be confident, but don't be cocky. And I think, I speak to a lot of my single female friends who say, well, I went on this date and this guy only talked about himself, right? And that would be an example of, I think, just cockiness, right?
Yeah,
Or borderline narcissism, whatever you want to call it. But confidence, it's kind of having that again. It's that awareness of the dating dynamics, right?
yeah,
Um, and the container in which you're in.
definitely. Now, I'm curious to know what got you into this field. What was the origins of getting into coaching men and helping them with women?
Yeah, so I actually have an interesting trajectory. So I studied journalism in university. I went to the NYU School of Journalism, born and bred New Yorker. And after I graduated,
Woo!
yeah, I know, we're the best. Um, cockiness. And after I graduated, I started a blog about sex and dating, so both topics. Um, about 6 months after I started that blog, it started to gain some traction, and I was hired as a dating writer for a media company up in New York City. So I ended up being in that role for about 5 years. Loved every minute of it. So my job was basically to go out and interview specifically millennials on dating trends, their relationship to dating in evolution. I'm sorry, in relation to the evolution of technology. So how are you dating now with Instagram being a big thing, with dating apps exploding, things like that. Um, then after I did that, I realized I wanted to leave the media world and just start my own thing. So I started my coaching business, and I've been coaching men, primarily men, for almost 6 years now.
Nice. Nice. I like the idea of running my own business as well because often, if I'm not always, but most of the time, if I'm working with somebody else, I feel like it can be maybe sometimes easier if I have a little bit more control over the situation, not controlling, but over control just in what I'm doing and my team. Because sometimes I have insights where I'm like, this would work really well. But if you're not at the top, if you're not the founder or you're the CEO and you're way at the bottom, you can't have a lot of leeway sometimes in what you're saying. So that's why I like doing this as well. What I did was I got a bachelor's degree in science, and I'm fascinated with the scientific world as well. And I was in that area, and every day I'm speaking with people when I worked in that field, especially, and all kinds of people. I saw all kinds of things, and I studied diseases. So I looked at different, I would always have patients who have all kinds of symptoms, diagnoses, spoke with all kinds of medical doctors, nurses, and that allowed me to see the world and how people interact in a different angle. And before I got into that field, I loved the psychology of human interaction, how people interact with each other, sociology, all that stuff was so fascinating to me. And I studied it briefly in college before I went into science. And now the past 4 years I've been back into this field heavily. And it's one of the most interesting things to me is seeing how social dynamics work. Even like if you're in a bar and seeing how different people interact with each other, it's just so fascinating to me. There's just so many things that I think are still untapped. And one thing, there was a famous guy dating coach by the name of Eric von Markovic, and he's known as Mystery. And he talked about this thing, and it was so fascinating to me. And he called it, what did he call it? It was part of social circle and having groups of people together. And you can actually build social circles in different environments, and you can have different people who you connect with as friends, and you can grow that over time. That's so interesting to me. Even like sometimes I go to a bar and I'm just having fun and I'm playing pool, and I'll play pool with, say there's some guy there, then we'll play teams, and maybe there'll be two girls playing, and then we're just having fun, we're having a good time, and maybe more people join. So then maybe we have like a group of people and we're playing teams against teams, and it's just really fun doing stuff like that. And a lot of social and dating coaches, I think, and sociology hasn't really gotten into that in great detail. So that's one area I'd love to learn more about and figure out as I go out every day and talk with more people. I just love that kind of area. Then so yeah, I think the going back, well, I don't want to go back. Let's go forward. Let's say let's say a few months from now to a few years from now, what would be some goals in your coaching?
That's a good question. I haven't thought about that recently. Um, yeah, I think I'm kind of similar to you in that, and I think coaches can be good at this, right? Where like our social skills are one of our areas of expertise. And so in my town where I live in Austin, Texas, I host events. I like to host events. I do one-on-one coaching and then I host events as well. And I love hosting events. Like I just love the energy of big groups. And I think people are really craving that today, especially where a majority of dating is done online. So I'd love to host events on an even bigger scale. Um, Maybe doing like, I don't know, international events. That would be really cool. Right now, they're kind of just limited to Austin, Texas, and New York City whenever I travel. But yeah, more. I think I'm seeing more in-person things in the future. Um, and again, it's because I think there's such an increased demand for it, specifically from my social audience as well as the clients that I serve.
That's a stupid idea.
It's a stupid idea.
No, I'm just kidding. No, that's great. No, I think that is great to expand upon the events that you're doing and have them international. Yeah, honestly, I do think that is amazing. And I think the dating apps and Instagram, they it's you can meet people that way, but you can also do it with events too, or networking with friends. And I think you can meet people both ways. And it seems like, how do I want to phrase this? I don't know. There's been so many people that have met online, and you can do that, but I I don't want the world to go to where everybody just meets online and we're always on our phone 24/7, because it seems like we're almost starting to shift that way. So to do something like events like that, you're taking the shift away from that. And I think that is a beneficial thing, because yeah, it would be a sad world if like everybody only met online and they were on their phones 24/7. And it's almost like we're going that way. So to move it in that kind of direction, I think is great. And that's why like I do meet people online all the time. Like we met just through social media and we're doing a podcast now. And it is great. It is great. But to also keep that level where you can meet people in person, I think is also great too, to do events. It definitely is. And have meetups and things like that. It's good for society overall in the long term. And like some goals that I have are, I'm doing podcasts now, so I would like to keep going up the ranks within podcasts and keep networking and meeting more people. And meeting more people gives me more, allows me to have more connections. And if I have more connections, what I can do is I have more possibilities to help other people and give out more solutions. So usually at the end of a podcast, what I do is I'll be talking to someone and I'll say, these are some people that I know that you might want to connect with, and I can let them know about you. And then I also say, usually I'll ask and I say, do you know of anybody as well? And that's, I think that's only beneficial in the long run doing stuff like that for me, for my goals. And I think that goal is a great goal as well. And so we talked about body language. What would be one tip you would give to somebody in regard to their voice, or how they speak, that they could improve as a man?
I just I'm gonna tie this point to what you just said, and then to answer the question. I think yes, I think to your point about connecting, like I just did a story on this on my Instagram, and I said sometimes men come to me and they think they need my guidance when actually sometimes I feel a man would be a better fit for their personal needs. And it's like every guy is different, and every guy has some struggle area. They mostly overlap, but some have some struggle areas that are more prominent. And so it can be so helpful for men to have like strong male role models and mentors and friends. Like I think more men need that. It's something I see all the time. And so now I'm gonna try to tie these 2 points together.
Right.
I think like tone of voice is so important. And I know I'm not alone in this, but like most women I talk to love a man with a hot voice. Like deep voices are they're never out of style. They're always going to be in style. Um, and actually, there's a coach that I follow. You might be familiar with him. I love his work as well. His name is Kyle Frungian, and
I am.
he's
I'm aware of him. Yeah.
yeah, and so I know he's a little more on like the pickup side of things, but he said that he used to have like a higher pitched voice, and he just started watching a bunch of YouTube videos of men he really admired, and eventually his voice started to be lower. So I think that's really cool, and it just goes to show that that skill is learnable.
Yeah.
Um, outside of actually tone of voice, intonation is important. Where I think a lot of guys only speak monotone, and having these intonations and the way that you speak can keep a woman engaged and excited. That's very important. And again, where a lot of my clients are software engineers, so they don't get a lot of experience speaking to women,
Mhm.
it's helpful to actually practice this, use your voice and practice it so you have confidence in it and know how to change it over.
Yeah, I completely agree with everything you said there. And I like the idea of also, so yeah, you're enthusiastic and there's different waves to it. And also changing the volume at times too. And it doesn't have to be highly drastic, but changing it where you can almost go to like a whisper. And that doesn't even have to be necessarily with dating. That can be in business, that can be in socializing with your friends. When you're telling a story, changing the volume levels too can also create some interest because it's a little bit different. It's a little bit unique. And they're like, oh, where's that person going there? And you if you combine those things with the body language and you can take up some space too. That can be beneficial too. With the fluctuation in your voice and the volume levels, all those things will help make you more interesting as a person overall. And whatever aspect you're working on, whether it's dating or if it's you have a friend or it's in business, all those areas it will improve on. And if somebody would want to get a hold of you, what would and let's say they want to learn from you, what would be the best way for them to contact you?
Yeah, so I would say Instagram or my website, and they're both I'm sorry, yes. So Instagram, which is at that dating coach, and my website, which is just the link in my bio. So Instagram is really good for all my needs. You can find out specifically about the work that I do on there, client testimonials, all the fun things. Um, yeah, that's me.
That sounds great. And also, my website's joresults.com. So you can also go there and get my free ebook. And this is the first wave. This is the new stuff. So you go there, you just put in your email, and you get my free ebook. And there it is. And it's been about 20 minutes already. It went by in a blink of an eye. And I will end the podcast here.